So basically, this crossing, which is from Bali to Java, two really famous surf locations, Uluwatu to G-Land. Who cares if you do it or not? Like, drop the ego, just have a crack. Your brain thinks the worst. I was like, the boat flipped, they're capsized. I've heard that it's a seriously dangerous body of water, and a lot of boats go down there all the time. So that's what was in my head.
Have you talked about which shots you want, or was that all Dane and he told you how he wants it?
This episode is sponsored by Foilsessions. Whether it is pump foiling, winging or pair winging, this app tracks time on foil, upwind angles and much more. For downwinding, you can set a destination and you'll get directions on your watch or on the earphones. Try it for free on the link in the description.
This is Up on Foil, the podcast for everyone flying just above the surface. Pump, carve, soar, let's foil!
This episode is also supported by SurfEars, but more on that later.
Welcome to episode number 73 of Up on Foil, the podcast where we talk all about foiling. And we have a familiar face here. That is Josh Koo. If you want to know more about his backstory, go back to episode 39. Today, we're going to especially talk about your Bali Strait crossing, the Strait Path, and the film that you brought out. It's super exciting. A journey across water driven by something deeper. That's the subtitle. Thank you very much, Josh, for coming on the show. Is there anything that you want to say just right away before we jump in?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. I think you're doing a service to the foiling community, giving them kind of content, whether it's them driving to work or listening to something while they're at work and they don't want to listen to their bosses, just to give that foil froth. I love it. And, I listen to all your episodes. Like, I'm the biggest foil brain person. So I appreciate you sharing these stories and just letting the community know about things that are going on. And I think one thing that I do want to really thank you for is that amazing event that you did in Switzerland recently, where you showcased my film and you did some pump foiling at the docks. And, without people like you, these things don't happen. So I really appreciate your time and effort that you put into this sport. And I think you're doing a service to it.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. Yes, it was on the 12th of December. It was really cold and foggy, kind of mystical feeling. And we pumped there, we ate a fondue, and then I was able to show your film. We were like 20 people there, and it was just super chill, super cool. And people asked me questions, and I was like, yes, I've listened to the podcast you did, the Foil Life podcast, and I was able to answer some questions because I heard that podcast, but then I just noted some questions down and I'm going to ask them now so they can listen. If someone is listening now and they haven't seen your film yet, maybe they should do that first. Maybe they should just get a coffee or a beer, depending when in the day that is, and go to your YouTube. The link is going to be in the description, and then I can come back. It's like a 15-minute film, so it's a good break in between whatever you're doing, and then they should come back and watch the film. Do you think that's a good idea? Do it that
I think that's
way?
a great idea. Like, there's a lot of stories within the main story of this film, and there's definitely some things that are left unanswered. And I've found with touring this film around that after the film, there is a lot of questions that people want to ask. So yeah, I would recommend for sure watch the film first and, dive into this podcast afterwards. And you might hear a few little backstories that really kind of answer some questions that are left.
All right. And there might be spoilers if you listen to it first. So maybe watch it first. And it's not just your work. You're, of course, the star of the show, but it's made by Dane Wilson. And maybe you could just share a few words about him, how you met and why you wanted to do it with him.
Yeah, so Dane actually has been a friend since I basically started foiling. I used to live in America maybe 6 years ago. And Dane at the time was, still is, but he's like one of the best foilers out there. And he went on my first downwind run ever. It's called the Emmawood Run up in Ventura. And we didn't even have SUPs back then. Supping wasn't even a thing. So we were prone downwinding. I
Oh
had
wow.
no idea what I was doing, but like, I was at the stage where I could maybe connect 3 or 4 waves. And I was like, oh, I could easily, ride a few waves down the coast. I forget how long the run is, but he was there and that's his local. So he was absolutely acing it. And then I guess from there, like in the foiling community, you keep your connections because it's such a small knit group. And I really, really appreciated his work that he does with his filming. I think he's got a really cool creative style. He's got a great eye for like editing and storytelling. So, we just kept in touch over the years. He did the Molokai to Oahu the first year that I did it as well. He actually smashed it. I think he might have got top 10 or something.
Really? Wow.
So not only is he an incredible filmmaker, he is also a very talented waterman. And, we just kept in touch. And I'm a little bit like, as much as I love the physical and athletic side of foiling, I also really like the creative side of it where like, the ocean or the lake, you've got a blank canvas and you really can show off your style, whether that's like your writing or your storytelling through the content that you put out. And I just really appreciated his work. So I reached out to him with this idea that I had. He was completely on board. We actually aimed to do it the year before, but timing didn't work out. Our schedules didn't work out. And, I didn't want to force it or rush it. So we just kept it there. We kept chatting. We've seen each other at a few foiling events throughout the world. And then this opportunity happened where Dane was going to be in Indonesia. He was filming a boat trip, or no, sorry, not a boat trip, but a trip in Mentawais. And he said, I'm going to be in Indonesia. So he goes, if the forecast looks good, I've got this week free and we can do it this week. And then I checked the forecast. I, had already like a bit of a plan set out. And then we just looked at it and about a week out, I just went like, let's go. This looks good. We got to roll the dice. Like, nothing's ever guaranteed, but I think you got to, sometimes you just have to roll the dice. And sometimes there's a lot of money laid out, flights, accommodation, boat hire, and it could just completely flop. But, we got really lucky. Like the weather gods were looking out for us and they gave us an awesome forecast. So, that's kind of how it all came together.
It's funny because you say you got lucky, you got unlucky as well, but in the end, yes, it's luck. How it turned out. Also, for telling that story, it's probably even better that something like that happened. Let's like split this podcast in like 2 parts, and you already started with talking about planning and also financing. So let's do that portion first. You said that the idea was already over a year old. Weren't you scared that someone would do it before you? Because it's kind of been like the first time someone goes, and that was like part of the story, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. Like, this, so basically this crossing, which is from Bali to Java, 2 really famous surf locations, Uluwatu to G-Land. There's a speedboat that runs between the 2 locations daily, basically, or maybe every second day. And I know that from my surfing background. I've been going to Bali forever. And, I've never done that boat across there. I've done the landway because it's cheaper and I'm a tight ass. But the boat I knew goes back and forth. So, I put my feelers out to friends that go and like, have you been on the boat? On the boat, have you seen like choppy conditions? And everyone's like, oh yeah, it's wild out there. It's like so much waves and chop and everything. And I was like, okay, reached out to a few people about pricing on boats. And, it's really tricky because like it's Bali, it's not a Western country. So kind of anything goes. And like some people like threw out wild numbers and I'm like, I can't afford that. And another person
What does
put me
that
in
mean?
touch with, like, as in like, it was just very expensive, like, because
Can you get specific or not too much?
yeah, totally. So like I think one person quoted me like 5 grand USD just for the boat to go back and
Okay.
forth. And like, it's kind of, I understand why they're probably charging that much because usually they have a group of surfers, maybe like 10 surfers that go there and then come back on the same boat and they split the cost. So it's probably not going to
Okay.
be as expensive. But because I'm just going myself with a team in the sense of like a local team, the captain, the deckhand, the safety guy, and then Dane. Like obviously Dane's not paying because it's my personal project. So it's yeah, it's not cheap. So I found a cheaper quote, and then was just I didn't know him personally, but it was through a friend of a friend, and it was very much like just rolling the dice because he was saying, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Oh yeah, there's heaps of wind." He doesn't foil, like he's just a
Yeah.
surfer, but at the end of the day, he doesn't care if I do it or not. He's getting my money.
Did you know that spending time in cold water and wind can cause your ears to slowly grow extra bone, sometimes enough to block them completely? It's called surfer's ear or exostosis, and it's part of your body's natural protective response. But ear problems aren't only about cold. Warm or polluted water can also lead to swimmer's ear, infection and inflammation, whether in pools, lakes, or the ocean. SurfEars is the original patented earplug from Sweden. It's modular, customizable, and comfortable, designed to seal from water while keeping hearing and balance intact. Sustainably made and trusted by water people worldwide.
I'm not
That's true.
saying that he's a bad person. I'm just saying that's business. And the thing is, I was very much just like crossing my fingers, going like, I hope that there's wind, or I hope that the wind's pointing in the right direction. So yeah, it was it's kind of hard when you didn't like I knew no one had done it before, but it was probably because of this case, because no one had done it before to give information. So it's very
Mhm.
much like you're spending a lot of money for something that you don't know that's even like going to be good. So, it's like gambling, like, high risk, high reward. So I kind of was just like, you know what? This is something that I personally really want to accomplish. Whether or not I can accomplish it or not, I want to at least try. So, I was very fortunate enough where I had a few sponsors that helped me out with the funding. So
You can drop
it's
names here.
yeah. So Amos. So basically, the whole story is about riding two different crafts. It's about riding a hydrofoil board and then like an old school Jerry Lopez lightning bolt board. So
Very
my
cool.
shaper Amos has the license to glass these lightning bolt boards, and obviously he makes amazing foil boards. He's got one of the best names in the business. So he jumped on board as soon as I pitched the idea for him because he's very much comes from a surfing background like myself, and he really wants to talk to that person that maybe surfs and has seen foiling and hasn't tried it yet, but that, projects like this might entice them being like, oh, okay, this guy surfs. I trust the surfer. Like maybe I will start foiling. So he's seen it from that aspect. And then obviously Code Foils, they're amazing support. They're like, not only do I work for them, but they're just like, they kind of just like wanted to support me because they just heard about it, like the story, because I totally pitched to them the idea and like did it all professionally, because that's my job. I work in marketing, and they were like, "Dude, that looks sick." And then I'm like, "Okay, I'll get this for you. I'll get that for you. We'll film this. We'll take photos of this." And they're like, "Don't worry about that." They go, "Just do it. It sounds sick."
That's awesome, man.
So like I like Code are so good for that. And then I had Roy and Karen from Kaholi Leash. Oh, they've honestly supported me since the start. Like when I used to live in LA, I met them, and whatever I've ever done, they've always just been like, yes. Like they are exactly like you, just not in it for the money. They're honestly just in it to support community and to build the sport. And then I also had like a good friend of mine who looks after me in the clothing department, Follow brand. So so I gained a bit of
Oh,
funding,
that's a brand. I thought
Follow brand.
we should follow the other three because it's at the end screen. You have the sponsors, and then it says
Oh,
follow. And I was like, is it the brand or do you have to follow these other three? All right, good to know then.
yeah, that's actually like a Aussie brand that first of all was in wakeboarding, and now they're pushing into foiling. And the owner is a massive foiler. He loves it, and he supports a few of us in Australia that foil. And I pitched the idea to him, and we got some really cool photos and images wearing the clothing. So I think all the brands were quite happy with how the project ended up.
What exactly you said you were just able to say what you plan and they were all in. Uh, did you have like calculations how much it's going to cost? Was Dane paid as well? I mean, you had flights, you had that boat that followed you. What else was there?
Yeah, so this is my job basically, like event management, project development, production of shoots. This is everything that I deal with in Foil Drive and Code Foils. So for me, like doing this on a personal note, I did spreadsheets, budget sheets, a professional document to pitch to the companies to gain support. I understand because I work for a company, what a company is looking for when someone pitches something like this.
Mhm.
There's so many people all the time asking for free shit or for money to do something, but they don't realize that, okay, if a brand gives you something, they're looking for something in return. They're
Of
not looking
course.
to just like, they're not a fucking charity. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, but some people don't get that because maybe they haven't put the shoe on the other foot to realize kind of it's a business transaction
Mhm,
basically.
mhm.
And the thing is, like a lot of the times they're taking a gamble on this individual because they might tell you that they're going to do all these deliverables, but are they going to deliver? Do they have a track record of delivering, or they have a track record of asking for things and never delivering? So it's just kind of like, and then it's pitching at the right time and knowing kind of where the holes are that the brand might be looking for. So like whether they need, photos of their gear or action shots or whatever. It's just like sometimes it's just a timing thing. Or sometimes a business is going through like poor cash flow and they just can't afford the project as much as they um like the idea. They just don't have the money to do it. So at the end of the day, I was going to do this regardless. And I say that to a lot of the ambassadors that I manage, that like this is all a selfish personal project, and if you really want to do it, you should invest in yourself. And the thing is, like I put all this money up front before I even gained funding because I knew I was
Oh,
going to do it.
really? Okay, that
Yeah,
was another
because I was
question.
like,
Okay, good to
you
know.
know, I just like life's too short, and if you're constantly got your hand out hoping that someone's going to give you money to do personal endeavors, like I'm not a Red Bull athlete, and I guarantee that Red Bull athletes didn't just all of a sudden one day start getting millions to do cool projects. They
Mhm,
all,
mhm.
whether they had rich parents or they totally invested in themselves, they worked hard and invested in themselves to build the brand that they're building for themselves. I think you got to take a punt on yourself, because if you can't take a gamble on yourself, then what's the point? You're just living like a safety life. You gotta, there's no reward if you don't put in a little bit of risk. So I understand that. And this is the pressure that I put on myself, is that, yes, this hasn't been done before. Was it possible? I don't know. Was I willing to try it? Yeah. Like, I'm at the age where like, I could invest in myself to do something like this. And, also too, if you invest in yourself and you don't complete it, you're not letting anyone down. The thing is like,
Yeah.
that's the pressure that you can take off yourself. But if you pitch to all these brands and you haven't put a cent in, and say you didn't complete it or make something that was worthwhile for the brands to really say that was good, um, it's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And I think that's where you got to weigh it up. And I think some people don't understand that because maybe they haven't put themselves in that situation yet. But it's a pressure cooker. And like I realistically, I remember it wasn't in my mind that I couldn't do it. Like leading up to the trip, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like there was no like, oh, but if it doesn't happen. But then I got to Bali and the forecast, yeah, was supposed to be windy, but every day it wasn't windy and it was raining. And then it fully came to mind. I was like, fuck, this, like, we might not even be able to do it. Like we might wake up on the day and it's glassy. Like,
Yeah.
so then that's when the stress started like coming in, because then I was like, not so much that I was wasting, my sponsor's money, but I was like, fuck, I've put a lot of time, effort, some of my own money into this. And I was like, maybe I won't even be able to do it. Like, but then I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if you can't do it, because at the end of the day, you're trying to do it. And, it's just your ego that is trying to say, I did it. But the thing is, we had a really cool trip. We had some time in Bali. We're able to have some time in G land. So it's like, who cares if you do it or not? Like, drop the ego, just have a crack.
Would you have been able to like postpone a couple of days? Because you said you had a week time.
Mhm.
Like the guys from the boat, would they have been able to do it the day after or 2 days after?
Yeah, so we had a 3-day window. The boat
Yeah.
captain, the guy who organized the boat, was very, very accommodating. I told him when we got there, I was like, okay, the forecast actually looks really good because we just set a date like a few weeks in advance. And I was like, that day could be shit. But then I told him, that, we need wind. And he was like, that time of year, there's a trade wind that blows through Indonesia. It's like clockwork every day. But, some days it doesn't happen. It's not guaranteed. So I told him, if 2 days leading towards the date that we chose, if it's not windy, can we move it forward or can we move it back? So we had a 3-day window. But we got lucky. On the day it was windy, and it was supposed to be windy on the day. So
That's perfect.
mm.
Let me ask you a few questions about filming, because you're a filmmaker, you make amazing films, and Dane as well. Have you talked about which shots you want, or was that all Dane and he told you how he wants it? Or was there planning in what you want to film as well?
There was definitely planning in the sense of the storytelling. In terms of the shot list, the only thing that I didn't want is I didn't want GoPro. And he knew that, because I was like, if I was doing GoPro, I knew that it would be like a vlog. I wanted a
Yeah.
cinematic piece that was I've never done a personal project like this before where, it's a short story. A lot of investment's gone into it, and I wanted something that was worthy of the cinema screen, I guess. So very much we had a story planned out, written document of the story that I wanted to tell and the sub stories through it. But then, obviously we didn't forecast the real drama of the movie, but that added, I guess, to the whole um, the depth of it all. But yeah, I'm a very organized person in the sense where I like to have these things written down, a budget, a plan. I just think in terms of executing, it's much easier when you've got a list versus I love also being fluid and running with whatever happens and not forcing what your plan is. And, I think we had a rough idea, but we weren't super regiment where we were like, we have to do this, we have to do that. And I very much just said to Dane, he had this gimbal with a long lens. And I've done work before in Hawaii with Slater, probably one of the best filmmakers in foiling and surf world. And he used a gimbal while we did the M2O crossing, and it gets incredible. When you get long lens and you've got a gimbal on the boat, it just looks smooth as butter. And, when you use a long lens and everything's compressed and you've got a bit of a background, it's just such a unique shot that really hasn't been overdone in foiling yet. So Dane accomplished that with some amazing shots of the Java background, the jungle behind me while I'm downwinding. And then also he just got that new Mavic, is it Mavic 4 drone? The one that's got the 360-degree gimbal on the head. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, he's Dane's got all the tools. So I just very much left it up to him. Didn't have an exact shot list, but I knew he had all the tools to create something beautiful.
I just wanted to ask that because I remember in the podcast with Luke that he said that he really wanted that shot, and he was super happy that he caught up with you at the end to get that shot that he really wanted. So that's really cool. Now in hindsight, having a little GoPro just in case, would you have brought that?
I had my phone with me, and I actually filmed on the phone when shit hit the fan. And I gave that footage to Dane because I broke my phone because right after that trip I went to Hawaii for all the races, and my phone bloody broke in Hawaii because I think it got water in it. So I lost all my photos and videos. But I gave that footage to Dane, which I'm pretty sure is on his hard drive. But I just wanted to focus at the job at hand. I was like, my job's to foil,
Nice.
for once I've paid a filmer to do all the filming and editing. So I was like, I'm just going to enjoy foiling. So I wanted to run pretty light, in terms of I've never done 100-kilometer distance before. So I didn't want as much as all the safety gear is great. It can be heavy, it can be restrictive. I wanted to be quite nimble and because I knew that the boat was supposed to be right next to me the whole time. So if I needed anything or if I hit a log or something, they could just quickly come get me or something. But yeah, I'll let you kind of drive the story if you want to show that off, or if you want to just leave kind of the finer details, whatever you want to.
No, because hitting a log is kind of is kind of something that we need to address for sure. Um, let's maybe divide that second part into two parts as well, because one is the crossing, and then the other part is the surfing. that she did with that special board, with that one fin board, which is super cool as well. But let's start with the crossing. You had the numbers at the end screen. It's 92 kilometers. You were on your way for 4 hours, 25 minutes, and you were lost from the boat for a little over than 1.5 hours. So those are some stats. When I think about the little downwinders that I do here, like 30, 40 kilometers, sometimes they take 2 hours because I try different wings and whatnot. And for me, it feels forever. But 4 hours, just another dimension. Also, not knowing where you're going, that's so incredible. So that's really something special. I think I can understand a little bit of what she did there, because sometimes I'm on the lake, there's fog, I don't see where I'm going. I know that downwind there's going to be land, so it's super cool, and it really, I'm involved in that story. That's super cool. When we look at the film, as for preparation, we see you putting beer in the fridge and water in the freezer, and it's so cool. It's so cool how it's made. That looks like that was your preparation. And you looked at the app. What actually was there as preparation? I'm sure there was more. I mean, you had your phone, you probably had a Garmin watch. What else did you bring, like safety wise? Or were you just 100% relying on the boat to tell you where to go?
Yeah, that was my downfall. So because I had a safety boat, I very much went really light on the safety personal gear. At home, I've got a life jacket, I've got an EPIRB. Now I've bought dye because my friend who works in the helicopter says if you
Oh,
ever
yeah.
get lost at sea, release the dye and there's a huge,
Yeah.
orange patch around you. Yeah, I very much just ran pretty light. I ran without a life jacket. I used like a running trail vest. Had the Camelback reservoir on the back of it. I think it was like a 2 liter reservoir. Put probably not 2 liters in there. I think I only put like 1 liter because the plan was if
You
when I
can fill
run
it
out,
up
I'll
at the
just
boat, right?
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just go to the boat, fill it back up because it's really not amazing foiling with that extra, kilo or 2 kilos on your back. And the plan was it was never a race. I didn't want to get there the fastest I could. I just wanted to get there and enjoy it. So, yeah, I had no food on me because the boat had a lot of food. I had my phone on me because if we ever get lost, I would call Dane because that's what the boat captain said when I organized the boat, that there's reception the whole way across the channel. There's 5G. Um, yeah, besides that, I obviously had a hat on, some,
But not a bump cap, just a regular hat.
no, just a regular. I actually don't own one of those bump caps, and I'm fortunate enough where I can get one. But I guess I don't know. I don't like the feel of them. I've actually got this really nice hat that I've got off this brand called Fractal. That's like a trail running hat. It's just really breathable, nice, stretchy, and just yeah, it's just a good hat. And I run that, and then yeah, I wasn't even wearing high vis clothing. I was just wearing a nice rash shirt from Follow brand. Just wasn't thinking straight, I guess. Well, not straight. I was just thinking nothing would go wrong.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my equipment that I had, besides like my board paddle and foil. And my leash. Sorry, I definitely had a leash on. I know there's some guys
That's
who
super
don't wear.
important, right? You would never
Yeah,
go onto a downwinder without a good
yeah.
leash.
I'm like, yeah, definitely when it's windy, I always wear a leash. But there's sometimes at home when we downwind and it's only like 10 knots and I won't wear a leash
Okay.
because, if I fall off, it's not like it's super windy where the board will just keep getting pushed downwind. But like, I'm not trying to advocate for that. That's just like something that yeah. Yeah. Each their own. I take responsibility for my actions. And I know if something happened, like I bloody had a heart attack or I hit something and hit the board, like, not being connected to a floating device is silly. So,
It's always easy to look at something that happened and say, well, you should have, and why didn't you? And of course, if everything goes smoothly, then there's no question about that. But
yeah.
then when stuff happens, obviously a question come up. So let's just like walk through the film. If I forget something that you think is super important, please tell me so first. And I realized that when I showed your film, like when you screw together your foil, your setup, people were like, "Can you stop? Can you go back? What foil did he use? Can we see? We couldn't really see. What foils did you use?"
Yeah, so leading up to the trip, like I brought over a quiver of foils, obviously, in case like there wasn't much wind or there was a lot of wind. And where I landed was I just used the 860R from Code Foils. That foil, James, I think 3 years ago, won the Molokai to Oahu on it. It can go fast, it can go slow. Its real happy speed that it likes to just cruise at is about 215, 220 kilometers an hour. We had a forecast where it looked like 15 to 20 knots. And I knew I wasn't racing, but I knew that like if for some reason there was a section or the wind didn't come in, that I can still downwind on that. Like it's fast enough to hold on to swells, but it's also slow enough to go some pretty light wind chop. So I use that. I always run kind of like a medium fuse. And then I put on the 120R tail, which is just like, honestly, it's just like a pretty user-friendly downwind set up for someone roughly 80 kilos. It's like intermediate or something. So, yeah, that was kind of my setup. Had a 7.6 Amos Cypher. That's just my travel board. If I was racing, I would definitely have something longer and narrower. If I'm back home and we're just downwinding like surf style, I'll even have a smaller board. Like I've got like a 7-foot or a 6.6, but 7.6 is just a good travel size. A lot of the airlines, that's their maximum, 7.6. So I've learnt that because sometimes my board wasn't allowed to get on a plane. So it's just like a safety, and it's a good size board too. Like, you can still surf a 7.6. You can still paddle up relatively small foils on a 7.6. So that was kind of like my go-to downwind setup.
Did you bring? I'm just gonna like put in some questions that people sent in. Did you bring a second paddle just in case one would break?
Nah, I didn't actually.
Oh, wow,
I
really?
very much traveled. I wouldn't say light because there was a lot of gear I had to bring. I had to bring a few foils, 7.6 board, an 8-foot surfboard. Yeah, it was a bit of gear. And, the paddle, like, yeah, it's always easy to bring 2 paddles, but no, I didn't. I just kind of, if worst comes to worst, I'm getting pretty good at dock starting since going to Switzerland that I could have just dock started off the boat. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that not having a second paddle is the riskiest thing, like,
I'm
of the whole
good,
trip.
paid, Matt, in terms of like, since joining Code Foils, I've gotten a paddle and I haven't, like, that's the only paddle I use. And
Nice.
like, I think I've been with Code nearly 2 years now. So it's a 2-year-old paddle. And like, yeah,
Perfect.
it's got a few bumps and scratches on it, but it's still solid. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, and I've only just started in the last year, like getting into a lot of the pump paddle, like as you're riding, like paddling.
Yeah.
Because before that, I would paddle up once and then not use the paddle. Like I don't come from a SUP background, so very much I would rather pump than pump paddle.
Okay.
But now I'm just kind of trying to get into the habit of doing it because, like, it is a good skill to have to use that additional, like, to your pumping with your legs to then leverage and use your arms as well to get like up and over stuff, especially with the
Yeah.
faster foils. So, a lot of guys that do that, I know, break a lot of paddles because sometimes they might put the paddle too deep in the water and it hits their foil.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been lucky, and like the Code paddles
Or
still.
very skilled.
Don't know. It's it's hard to weigh up because sometimes I've found with downwinding, if you don't take risks, you're not going to be going the fastest out there. Like the guys that are going extremely fast, like look at Kane the Wild and stuff, like they're coming off all the time because they're riding so high to the surface. Like that's how you get those crazy high speeds. Like you have to take risks. Like if you foil low to the ocean and your board's touching all the time, you're not going to be going fast. It's just like,
All
you're
right.
just not.
You very much seem like a very chilled guy, very positive thinking. Um, did you have, like, in this first part before you lost the boat, did you have any situation when where you thought like, well, this is not going the way I wanted, I'm not sure, or maybe when you got off course and had to like motor back to another position, like, well, this sucks, I want to go again from the start, or we're like, all right, it's just what it is? Because in a film, it even seems that you're totally okay with it.
Yeah, like so yeah, basically what happened was when we took off from the point, the wind there was no defined bump. I thought it'd be like clear cut where the wind's just pushing you directly the way we wanted to go. And I was very much confused because the swell was going 45 degrees to the wind. And I didn't
Terrible.
know if I needed to go the swell direction or the wind direction. Like it was there was no land that I could see at the other end to point towards. So I was just kind of going off into a mist. And what happened was I started kind of going a direction and the boat just started following me. And I would look over my shoulder every now and then and the boat was following me. They weren't waving or anything. So I was like, I must be going the right way.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I went maybe 20 or 30 kilometers. And then that's when they motored up right next to me and Dane checked on his phone and was like, dude, we're nowhere near where we have to go. And he was like, you could realistically cut super hard left and get back on track. But he goes, we're so far off course that will be horrible. And I was like, no, I'm going to hop back on the boat. Let's go back out to like where we're supposed to be. And then I can get a better line. It wasn't my ego that wanted to be like, I want to do it completely by myself, whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea where I was going. So I was just like, I might as well go back to the line that the boat had set on their GPS. And then, it was that when I got out back to where we were supposed to be, that's when I understood where the hell I had to go because where I went initially was like inside the two islands and it was
Yeah.
very much calmer water versus when we went back outside, so outside of the islands, it must have been current out there and, there was like way more
It looked
wind.
wild.
Yeah, it was wild. It was so wild. And then, but at least then I had in my head, okay, do not go where the swell's going, because that's where I went initially because it was
Yeah.
nicer and I didn't know where I was going. And I was like, oh, let's just go this way because it's the easy direction. I'm just going
Yeah.
with the swell. But then I found out after, I seen on the map on the boat, I was like, oh shit, we really are going off course. So that's when I think you hear in the film, I go, I have to ignore all the swell and just ride the wind bump. And that's when I was so happy that I chose the 860R because if I had anything smaller, the foil would have been going too fast for the wind bump and I would have just had to
You
pump
would have had to go with
60
the swell,
kilometers.
huh?
So I was very happy I was on the 860R then because I just had to. And you can see in that shot after I get off the boat that there's swell going this way and I'm paddling up pretty much up and over the swell to
Yeah.
get going. And it's, that was, I was really happy that Dane captured that because that is exactly what it was like. It was horrible. It was not
How often did you have to do that?
I think I only came down maybe 4 times. And like one of the times I hit, I think plastic and I think Dane, I don't know if he's got that on the film, but he definitely got it on footage. And then the second time, I think I came down because I lost the boat. I was just like sitting there and just looking around. And then the third time was when I caught back up to the boat. I came down because I was like, just wanted to chat to him to be like, what the hell happened? So maybe it was only 3 times, but like, yeah, the goal basically with this long distance downwinding is that you don't want to come down. I find that when you come down and have to paddle back up again, it expels so much energy. Like you're way better to just like keep going and like try find your groove, move your feet, try and move your body positioning as much as possible because if you stay in the same position for hours, something's going to give. And that's like whether you push up on your toes or wiggle your toes up and down, move your feet from like surf position to like a ski position, just to like activate like different muscles. Because if you're using the same muscles for hours, they're going to burn out for sure.
Or do it the way I do it, just fall in and you have to go again. So then you said it in the film, you lost your boat and you described it super well with Luke in the other podcast. You were waiting for the boat first, right? You were waiting for them to come back. How long were you waiting? Did it get cold a bit? Because yes, it looked very warm, but still if you're in the water and maybe also a little frightened, the body might react.
Yeah. So after I lost the boat, so basically after I paddle up, I went and I didn't look back because I was focusing so hard on cutting left. because it was very technical. Like when you're downwinding, if you're doing something very technical, it's very hard to play around with your GoPro, very hard to look over your shoulder looking for your friend. And that's basically what I was doing. Like I was kind of really focusing on the job at hand. And then like, I think after a little bit, I looked over my shoulder quickly and then I'd be like, hang on, where's the boat? And then I'd like look over my other shoulder and I'd be like, okay, no, there's definitely no boat. And then I was like, okay, maybe go for a little bit longer. And I started really like, instead of kind of going the direction I had to go, I would keep cutting back to like, as I cut off,
You have a better view?
yeah, better view. I can kind of, because I'm goofy, I can kind of look back upwind and be like, okay, well, there's definitely no boat there. And then I was like, and then I remember saying in my head, okay, no, this is fucked. Where the fuck is the boat? And then I was like, okay, so I came down and I sat there and I just looked upwind because I was like, the boat did not pass me because I can't see it in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it might be a kilometer to my right or to my left, but I'm like, I can't see anything. And why would they be a kilometer to my right or to my left? Like, it just seems silly. So I just kept looking back upwind and thinking, because it was really wild, like it was very up and down ocean. I thought maybe every time I looked upwind, they were in a trough while I was in a trough and you just can't see over the mountains as well. So I was just sitting there, just scanning the horizon back and forth, looking. And then I was just like, fuck, they're not anywhere. And then I seen a boat, but it wasn't our boat. And then I was just like, oh, okay, sweet. All right, at least there's another boat out here. So I started like waving my paddle and they were kind of coming close. Yeah, they kind of came close to me. And then I realized it was like a traditional Indonesian fishing boat, like a big old kind of slug of a boat. And, you know, I seen them kind of throwing fish guts off the side and like kind of coming towards me. And I'm just sitting there and like, you know, every bad thought that you can think of is coming to my mind, being like, I'm going to be one of those stories of someone being lost at sea. You know, I'm going to be one of those stories that, you know, I get attacked by a shark or something. I'm just sitting there out there in the middle of nowhere. I can't see any land 360 degrees. I can just see this like little boat in the distance coming towards me, waving my paddle. And like, they might be like 500 meters away from me. And then they just peel off and go like away from me. And I'm like, whoa, fuck. I was like, okay. I kind of felt safe for a second there because I was like, I seen at least, you know, civilization, like a boat. And I thought maybe they might let me on the boat until I find my boat. But like, you know, I don't speak Indonesian. So like, I knew it was going to be tricky to kind of explain what the hell's going on. So, but then they just peeled away. And then I was like, no, I'm totally on my own here. This is like.
Were they upwind or downwind from you?
They were upwind of me.
Oh, shit. So
and then they just peeled off. Yeah. So I couldn't paddle. If they were downwind, I would have shot towards them, but they were upwind. And I just remember watching them and they just went in the opposite direction. I don't know if they seen me and they didn't give a shit, but like, yeah, you want to hope that maybe they didn't see me and they didn't know. But like, yeah, if they did see me and they were like, whatever, that would have been pretty funny. But that's when I literally just had this like literally such clear decision where I was like, I need to go. Like, there's no point me sitting here hoping and waiting. I have to go. And at least if I get there, I can tell the place that we were going to, G-Land, that there's a boat missing. Like, you know, it was my responsibility to inform people to look for the boat. Mm-hmm. And I knew that they would be doing the same in reverse. I knew that the boat would be looking for me if they had lost me to tell, you know, the greater source that, hey, we're missing a guy out there and we need to send a helicopter or something. So these are like all my thoughts. And the worst thought that did come to my mind, because like now that I was in game mode and I was like, okay, like I kind of completely forgot that I had no food or no water with me. Cause I was just like, I don't know. It was just like a crazy feeling where it was like, there's no if or might. It was like, no, you're going, you're 100% getting there. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you kind of maybe not get to the end of destination, but at least get to land, you know? So it was, I was very proud of how my body reacted like that. And it felt like when I had to go an hour and a half without any support, it kind of felt like it went like in 5 minutes because I was so
hyper-focused,
in flow, tunnel vision, like totally just so laser focused on what I had to do that I completely forgot that like my foot was getting sore or my back was getting sore or that I was hungry or that like I was thirsty. Like it was just like, yeah, it was just like fight or flight. And I was really proud that my body kind of just went into that like attack mode where it was like, no, we're going, we're definitely going. But the crazy thought that I did have in my head that really made me feel uneasy was that I was worried that the boat capsized. I was really worried because I was like, why the hell is the boat not going in front of me or like I can't see it? I was just like, it just seemed like something really bad happened. And in my head, you know, your brain thinks the worst. I was like, the boat flipped, you know, they're capsized. That crossing, not that I have crossed it before, but I've heard that it's a seriously dangerous body of water and a lot of boats go down there all the time. So that's what was in my head. And I was like, because I've done a lot of spearfishing in Indonesia on another area called Nusa Penida, where it has some of the craziest currents in the world, and boats go down there all the time. And you know, it's Indonesia where the safety precautions with boats aren't as like high end as other countries. And I was just worried. Like so, it was yeah, I just had to go. And like, you know, not only was I worried about if I could get there in terms of like my body not cramping or seizing up, it was also like, okay, I forget what time it was, but I was like, I've got X amount of hours until it gets dark. So
Yeah.
even if I make it kind of close and then my legs cramp and I have to paddle on my chest for a couple hours, I was just like doing the math in my head and I was just like, okay, I've got time, but not too much time. So don't muck around. Like, you know what I mean? And the worst thing that in my head was just like, don't just sit and wait, like do something.
Yeah, makes
Um,
a lot of sense. While you were waiting, and I have a bunch of friends, and actually me too. I don't get seasick, but if I'm sitting in the water in the waves and I focus on something else, sometimes I get seasick. Was that not a problem for you?
nah, I honestly get
Especially
seasick
as it was
too.
wild.
Yeah, I honestly get seasick too myself, but I reckon I probably only waited in the water no more than 20 minutes. Like, and in those 20
Okay.
minutes, I wasn't even thinking of being seasick. I was just so scanning the ocean for the boat, being
And you were
like,
looking for
just
something. You were not like trying to
nah,
activate your
nah,
phone or something.
nah. Yeah, I just was just like, I think I might have looked at my phone once and seen there was no reception. And then I was just like looking at the horizon. And then I focused on that fishing boat coming. And then when that peeled away, then I was just like, let's go. Let's just get out of here. Yeah.
Um, just one last thing before you have to tell the story what happened to the boat, because it's not in the movie what exactly happens to the boat. You said you had a watch, right? Is it not like a watch that you have GPS where you put the track in? What do you use the watch for, except for time?
Yeah. So I've got one of those Garmin watches that, you know, shows your pace and your distance and stuff. And very luckily enough, before the trip, and this is kind of before I go anywhere new, I always set a course, just so if you get lost, at least it kind of shows the waypoint of the direction you need to go. And I'm very lucky that I set that before this because when I got lost, I went to my watch, found the course, set the line, and I just kind of followed the direction of where I had to go. In terms of the boat, why the boat lost me, I found out that after I paddled up, and you see that in the film, and took off, literally, I think they said like a kilometer after I took off, they ran over an old soggy bamboo log. And what happened was it just got wrapped up around the propellers. And then in that time, Dane said he was sitting on the top of the boat watching me. And he said he just see me like slowly just go. And then he couldn't see me again. And in that time, the three people working on the boat had the propellers up trying to like get all the wood out of the propellers. And then by the time they fixed it all, put the engine back in, they said they had no idea where I went. Like Dane was like, it was kind of going that way, but you know, when the ocean's
The
that
boat can move
wild,
as
the
well.
boat's just spinning around. So he was kind of
Yeah.
like, it was going that way, but like, you know, 5 minutes ago it was kind of going that way. And then,
Yeah.
and then the boat captain didn't speak great English and Dane was having a hard time trying to translate that like no, Josh would go. He wouldn't just wait out here. And then the boat captain was like, no, well, we need to check this area. We can't just leave not
But you
knowing.
have
And
no
then
chance of finding anyone.
yeah, and
No
not having
chance.
high veers or anything. It was yeah, it was. Dane said it was a horrible experience too on his end. Like my end was
Yeah.
horrible too, but he said his end was very much. He just was just like, please get there.
Yeah.
Like he thought that he would have to tell my wife and my family that he lost me at sea.
That's terrible. Did you
Yeah.
how did your family react once you told them that story?
Yeah, it's funny. My wife my wife worries a lot more than me, I'll tell you that. And she before the trip was just like, oh, it sounds dangerous. Like, are you sure that you're safe? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I've paid this boat to follow me. Dane's going to be on the boat filming. It's not like they're following three people that can go like
Yeah.
this. It's just like they're following one person. Like, it's
How
totally
hard can it
fine.
be?
Exactly. The boat has all the food, water, all the safety gear if anything goes wrong. Um, and my wife was just like, I don't know, like she just worries about everything. My parents were a bit oblivious to it because I've been doing this stuff for a while and they're just like, oh yeah, he'll be right. They just say be safe. But then I told them obviously, I told my wife as soon as I got to the final destination exactly what happened, and she was just so happy that I was the one who told her instead of like Dane having to tell her we've lost your husband.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that was also the good thing about not having reception the whole way is that they couldn't call anyone to worry
Yeah.
people. So when we got to the final destination, they have Starlink there, and I was able to call everyone and be like, "We're all good. We got here. Job done. Complete." But yeah, my
But
parents I took to the movie premiere, and they hadn't seen it yet until the cinema, and I don't think they knew the severity of the situation. I told them, but whenever I tell my family, I don't want to worry them, so I'm always like, oh, I was lost for a bit, but I was fine. Like it was sweet. Like it was, yeah.
shit. But then eventually you saw land and they caught up with you. Did you hear the boat first or did you see it first? And
I
how
heard
was
it
like the
because
feeling when
I stopped looking back. It was just a waste of time looking back over
yeah,
my shoulder. So I was just like, I was at least when they caught up to me, I had Java on my right hand side, like maybe 5 kilometers or 4 kilometers to land to me. And I kind of stayed on that inside line because I knew if something went wrong, I would just like beeline it into to the land, even though it's a jungle there and there's no civilization in that national park until you get to the actual destination we were going to, G land. But I knew if I got to land, I could just walk. I would just literally ditch all my gear and just swim in over the reef, walk to. I knew if I just kept walking that direction, I would hit the camp. So yeah, I was just like downwinding, just focusing. I was starting to definitely get sore. Like I've only ever done, I think 65 kilometers in the past. Like, that's the longest distance I've done. So when it started clicking into like 70 kilometers, 75 kilometers, I was like, everything was getting sore for sure. And then I just heard that roaring engine. And I was like, whoa. And I looked and I could see because it's a yellow sided boat. And I knew straight away it was the boat that I came on. And
how
then
did that
Dane
feel,
just like,
man?
oh, it was incredible. Like it felt like, and it was such a pity too, because the whole majority of the crossing, I was shitting myself like in survival mode. And then, the last bit I was actually able to enjoy because I knew where the hell I was going and I knew that everyone was safe. And we kind of, as soon as the boat came up to us, I was just like, had my hands on my head going like, what the fuck happened? Like, and then we both stopped and I hopped on the boat and I was just like, and then he told me the whole story and I was just like, holy shit. We were just like hugging each other going like, we're good. We're good. All right, let's get back into film mode. And then he put the drone up and we got some shots and we made it. So it was good.
Awesome. And the way you say that you feel that is so fucking good. We can really, I mean, it felt like I was there as well, and I could really feel the relief that you had when you came back together. So that's amazing. And then these shots that Dane wanted to have, like in front of that channel, really nice, but it's like 1 or 2 seconds. for the shot. So it's like having that focus for one of these shots, and it's done over so quickly. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Then you got there, you arrived. It's portrayed super in the film, and then that was just the first part. Was that crossing? Then it was the second part, the surfing with that special single fin board. Um, how nervous were you for that then? Because one part was done, but you wanted to have that second part for the film. Were you sure that the wave were going to be good, that you could handle that board? Have you been practicing with that board? Or was that just you're a good surfer and it's going to be no problem anyway?
So yeah, we got really lucky. Like, we're looking for wind prior. Like that was the primary like forecast we're looking at. We're looking at wind, but then the timing was honestly perfect. There was a huge groundswell that hit G-land. I think the day of the crossing, and then leading into the couple days following, there was like a 6 to 8 foot swell, maybe even 10 foot swell, and like honestly, we just got lucky because that board, the board that was designed in the 70s, like it's not a super nimble, easy board to ride. Like if anyone's ridden like a board like that, it's really made to point straight and kind of just like have one line and go. And if you've ever surfed G-Land, it's a tricky wave. Like it's not like an easy wave where you just take off and like you just pull into the barrel and you come out. Like it's got all these crazy sections that you kind of really have to like weave and duck and choose the right line. And no, I'd never ridden that board before. That board is honestly, in my eyes, it shouldn't be ridden because it's such a beautiful board that it's like
Yeah.
it's got a polished tin on it. It's carbon wrapped. It's made to be hung on a wall, like of in a mansion or something. Like, and I felt like super guilty. Like, I felt very fortunate that Amos put the trust in me to be like, ride it. Because he was like, whatever. Like, Amos builds boards every day. He's just like, yeah, whatever. It's probably like a 10 grand board, but he's just like, it's made to be surfed. So, I brought the one board, I brought the one leash, kind of same thing, rolling the dice again. Like, are we going to get a swell? We got lucky, we got a swell, and then we got, so I think having that board and that size swell, it really helped with accomplishing getting some good waves. Because if we had, a little swell where it wasn't really barreling and you had to kind of do turns, it wouldn't really suit what that board was designed to do. Like the board's called the Pipeliner. So it's like a Jerry Lopez board that he made back in the 70s to surf pipeline. So think about it, like, a big wave, heavy drop, pull in, spat out. And that's basically what we were trying to do in G-Land. And we got a few good waves getting tubed. I did a couple turns as well, but like I'd never ridden the board before the trip, but like I've been surfing my whole life. Like I'm 35 now and I've surfed since I've been probably 15. So there wasn't really much to it in terms of like positioning like yourself out there. I've been to G-Land once before, but maybe when I was like 18 or 19. So a long time ago. Like the place has changed quite a bit since I was there. Um, and yeah, the wave hadn't changed, but like it's very much like you're taking off on a wave where it's got a huge shoulder, like a lot of wall in front of you, and you just got to hope that the wave cooperates because you're basically just trying to get as much speed as you can, and you're just trying to find those little barrels and then like pump through to the next barrel and then know when to pull off or know when to straighten out. So it's tricky, and it was tricky on that type of board, but I got a few good ones, so I was really happy.
I really like the images that were filmed there as well. But the shot that I loved the most was that bird's eye shot where we see you like paddling towards the wave and then just be at the perfect spot, pop up and ride it. That
Yeah,
was
you can see the
amazing.
reef underneath. It looks beautiful.
It's
Hey,
so
it looks
beautiful,
really nice.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So and that's not only you, of course. Dane must be a good surfer in order to find or see these things.
Yeah,
That
big
is so
props to
cool, man.
him. He had big days sitting behind the camera because G-Land, you realistically want to surf it over the high tide, and to get out there on high tide now, it's like they got boats that take you out. Back when I went, you had to bloody paddle out, which people still do, but like you got the luxury of the boat. So I would get dropped out there at like maybe the mid tide just before it went high. And I would stay out there all the way till like low tide. So I was out there for like 6 hours. Dane's just sitting there with his long lens camera trying to find me through the pack and like a hawk, just catching every wave that I'm getting. And you know, being in Indonesia where it's so bloody hot and like you're in the jungle, like it's, yeah, he put in the time and work.
Is there anything else from that second part that you want to highlight or maybe like add to the film?
Yeah, I think it was kind of cool. Like when I got to the G-Land destination, there's like, I think 5 different camps there that people stay at. And word spread so quickly. There was this guy who just foiled from Uluwatu here, and everyone's like, "What?" And then that next day, like, you know, I went out on this single fin um, Jerry Lopez board. And then people put 2 and 2 together and they're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what the hell's he doing? And then it was pretty cool. Like, a lot of people were like giving me props for, you know, what I'd just done and the board that I was riding. I think a lot of people respect whether you surf or you foil, you know, people could respect that crossing that they might have done it on the speedboat and they've been like, that
Yeah.
ocean's wide out there. So they could give us respect for that. And then also pulling out the single fin board designed in the 70s and getting a few good waves, people were like, whoa, that's like, you know, that was, it was, they were just, they could appreciate it. And it was really nice. Like it got received really well because, you know, sometimes in surfing, the respect's not there for foilers. So I just really trying to bridge that gap to show that, you know, you don't like, there can be respect for every craft out there.
Very nice. Very, very cool. Plus, with your personality, makes it easier probably because you're really a cool guy, very likable, humble still. So that's super cool. Then eventually the film was done. Um, when was it the first time you saw it? Was it the way you expected it, or did you once you watched it ask Dane to change some things?
Yeah, so I was actually in Hood River when I seen the first draft that Dane put together. I remember watching it just on the TV, and honestly, like I got pretty emotional. I think I had like a little tear in my eye because I was just like so proud of what Dane had put together because I had a vision and he completely executed what I was trying to portray and even made it better than what I could have even have imagined. So I was just really happy that, you know, we were able to collaborate on such a cool project. And, you know, Dane's told me, I don't know if it's just him making me feel better, but I caught up with him over Christmas and I was asking, like, what was the coolest thing that you did this year? And he was like, dude, your project. Like, that was
Nice.
such a cool trip. And he goes on trips every 2 weeks, like around the world. So, you know, I think it's a special thing that we can share and talk about later on in life. And I think now we've got like that film to show for it. It'd be nice to look back on in a few years, and it's also given me motivation to keep trying to do these personal projects because I think, you know, we get caught up in you know, our daily job and stuff like that, and sometimes it's cool to have your own goals.
We're gonna talk about what's next. Maybe you have new plans or things that you have planned already. But once the film was done, you said you went to cinemas to show it. How often did you do that? How was the reaction of the people? Was there some Q&A afterwards? How did that go?
Yeah, we had a really good we just had a good flow of events that we could show it at. So we held our first like global premiere in Hood River while AWSI was on. So we had everyone from the industry there. Um, we had, I think, over 100 people come to this beautiful venue. It was in like this little kind of barn house brewery thing. Really nice big screen. And the guys from the Generic Foiling podcast actually were the MCs of the night. So it was really cool to see such a great reaction from our first screening. So then I used that kind of momentum to showcase one in my hometown in Sydney. Same thing, we had it at a beautiful like local cinema, like an old historic one, and had about 100 local foilers and friends and family come watch it. You know, we had the one that you showed in Switzerland to your community, which was awesome to see. Like, it's just nice to see on the other side of the world people being interested in something that I've been into. So, and then just recently, I had one in San Diego, in Roy and Karen from Kahoe's hometown. I was there over Christmas and we had like a little showing. Dane was there as well. And we had maybe 50 people in like a local bar on New Year's Eve, which was really cool. So we had a few
Wow.
drinks. And then just the most recent one, I went up the coast to a place that's like It's about a 6-hour drive from Sydney, and it's like a small little surf town. And they got another little beautiful historic cinema where a guy like yourself reached out. His name was Kyle, and he just like same like you, just wanted to put on a really cool community event. And I said, for sure, like if you want my film, you can have it. And I go, I'll fly up for it. I'd love to meet the local community. And yeah, that happened last weekend. And we same thing. I think they had like 110 people come to the movie. And Adam Bennett's also showed some of his footage too, and the whole flight team. So
All
just
right.
cool
Yeah.
to show like the film to, people in the industry and maybe people that aren't in the industry that are interested in foiling. So that's and then now that that's all done, it's actually quite exhausting, the whole preparation for all these things, and it can be expensive too. So yeah, now we've kind of just like made the date that the end of January, we're going to put it up on YouTube. We've had some beautiful premieres and some nice showings where I can meet the community, but I think now it'd be cool to open it up to the rest of the world that weren't able to make it to a premiere. So I'm just going to chuck it up on YouTube. A few people said put it on a film festival, but I honestly can't be bothered. Like I'd rather focus on the next project than try and really push on that film. I think it just I watch a lot of YouTube. Like I get a lot of inspiration from different industries and different athletes. I think it's cool when it's something for free online that people can just watch.
That's super cool. That's amazing. Well, that was a perfect segue. But what's next? Do you have things that you can talk about, or is it after that whole thing, little back to business, staying at home a little bit, or what are your next plans?
Yeah,
Big or
so
small?
like yeah, honestly, I just want to keep pushing at this, like using what my core roots are, like surfing, and having that relationship with Amos where I can create films that really show to the surfing world and the foiling world. I want to I want to keep advocating for, trying to get as many people into the sport, and then like using my background of surfing to kind of bring a lot of, like here in Australia, there's so many surfers, and like I just want to show to them that, foiling is just an addition to your quiver. Yeah, it's a super tricky, it's not like jumping from a single fin board to a thruster board. It's definitely a bigger learning curve than that. But if you can master it or at least get good at it, like it's going to open up your whole mind to all these different waves that you have always looked at and been like, oh, that wave's too fat or that wave's no good for surfing. It's like it's funny. Like I still I was with my friend on the weekend and he just surfs still, and I've been trying to convert him into foiling. And we checked the surf and it looks shit for surfing. And I looked at it and I go, dude, that looks so good. He was like, what? And he was like, that's shit. And I'm just like, dude, on the foil, that would be so fun. And then he's just like, you can see his brain ticking because,
Yeah.
everyone, when they get to my age, like, they're middle age, they've kind of already got all their hobbies and they're not really willing to invest in another hobby because they're already
Yeah.
so, invested in already, like whether it's surfing or soccer or cycling or whatever they do. It's hard to then, throw out that money to buy a new setup for something that they're not even going to be good at. Like it's a big investment of time, money. But like I want to really show off with these projects that I'm doing to people that it's extremely fun and it's really worth the learning process, and that the learning process is the best. I feel like some of the
Right.
most
Yeah.
frothiest spoilers are the ones that are learning because they're dying to get better. And I'm just like, enjoy that time. Don't try and get to the top, because when you get to the top, people get bored or plateau and they want to move on to the next
Yeah.
hobby. But like, I just remember when I was learning to sup, everything I did was just revolving around how to get better at sup. And then now that the powerwing's coming along, I'm back in that space again. And I'm just like trying to learn everything that I can about powerwing to get good at it. And I'm sure in another 12 months, there'll be something new coming out. So yeah.
Super exciting. Well, Josh, for everyone listening, if you're not following Josh on Instagram, you should definitely do that. That's @JoshKoo. What's your YouTube channel? Maybe also for
If
the
you
audio listeners?
if you just put into search on YouTube, Josh Koo, you'll see there's like a foiling photo, and I honestly probably drop a video nearly every month. I don't think there's any other Josh Koos that are doing like a YouTube, so you'll find it.
And
But
if
yeah, I
not,
really
it's in the show
appreciate.
notes.
I get me just visiting a lot of communities and places over the world, I always get people that hit me up saying like, I really appreciate the videos that you're putting out. And that gives me a lot of encouragement to continue making them, because, you know, a lot of time and effort goes into them. And sometimes I feel like, who the hell watches this stuff? But
That's
it's
awesome.
nice when people, you know, say thanks for, or they learnt something from it, or they're inspired from it. So it really gives me drive to keep producing stuff, because I really love it.
Awesome. Personally, I especially like the vlog ones because then the personality comes through as well, and I really enjoy that. But man, I love it. Yeah, keep going. It's amazing. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up because we're way in over an hour. If you still have time, go watch the video again because the film is so cool. And maybe now with the knowledge that you listeners and viewers got now, maybe you can see something else in the film again. So go and check that out again. We're going to be back in 1 week with a new episode, like all the time. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, and enjoy your session.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate the time and you letting me share my story. You're always such a big supporter, so thank you.
Awesome. Bye bye.
See ya.